I want to quickly talk about SummerSlam in the regards to ticket sales and get your opinion on things. Tickets went on sale many months ago for SummerSlam. They expected, hopefully, it's the second two-night SummerSlam of all time. This SummerSlam has been promoted longer than any WWE event in history. Since 2024, we knew that this SummerSlam was going to be in Minneapolis. Tickets went on sale. They do what they normally do, whether it's WrestleMania or anything else. They start off with the TV side and quickly move to the other side as they fill up the whole building or close to it. But as we looked and as we saw, they were struggling mightily to fill up the tickets they put on sale. They booked it for 29,000. As of about a week ago, they had sold 22,000, and that was a number that had been stuck for a long time. Now, just a few days after Saturday's main event, they have moved that 22 to just about 29 and more every for both nights. They've opened up more seating, now potentially going for 31,000 as a capacity. But a big part of this isn't the build, isn't Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns at Saturday's main event. It's the fact that it's Saturday's main event on a promotional commercial. They advertise tickets starting now at $25. Do you think what do you think with this ending? Is this going to teach WWE a lesson when big events go on sale? Are we going to start at these numbers now, or is this just if WWE going to look at this as just hey, we have that emergency if needed?
I think it teaches them a lesson. I really do. I feel like I saw that promo on Raw this past week where it was Minnesota Vikings superstar wide receiver Justin Jefferson came out and did it like they had a little commercial where it was his nickname Jay Jettas as as a promo code $25. I think WWE is going to have to I think they have to take note of the fact that the fans were getting sick of and getting exhausted by the rip-off prices of the tickets. We've talked about it before, and I know as of recent conversations, even you hadn't bought tickets. Not that
Yeah.
have you bought tickets yet?
I have bought tickets. I have tickets for both nights. I got lower level seats. I got the best seats I've ever. I don't want to say I've ever had, but for SummerSlam, I've sat pretty low and pretty good for these one night ones. Last year, I was in the upper deck. This year, though, I got some down low seats right lined up with the ring at the 50-yard line,
Did you use the
100
promo
level.
code Jay Jettas to get the
I
discounts?
indeed did that. The tickets were under $75 a night. Um, so
That's a good deal.
yes, there was floor seats. And listen, I'm under I know what's good seats and what's not good seats. So just because these are floor seats doesn't mean that I was going to take advantage of them. But I know people who buy floor seats, specifically, I'm talking the further rows, football stadium rows, or even at like Monday Night Raw, if you're like in row 15 and beyond. The people who buy those are the people who've never bought in those before, and they do it one time because it says floor seat, and they think that sounds good, and they want to try it out because they've never sat on the floor. They do it one time, they realize it's not the best, and they never do it again. I know so many people who sit on the floor in row 36 at WrestleMania. They've never sat on the floor at row 36 at WrestleMania before because as soon as you do it once, you go, I can't see nothing. I paid a ton of money for these seats to say I was on the quote unquote floor, and I can't see nothing. Next time, I'm going to get up into a higher level, right? So, but with that being said, still, they know that floor seats have that cachet to them, that name. And yet, some floor seats were going for, with this promo, again, this isn't secondary market, this is WWE selling them, $43 for SummerSlam. And I didn't buy those. I think I said about the ones that were closer to 70, right? Because I'm a little bit smarter than just saying being on the floor is the best. I'm up in like row 20 of the 100 level at 50-yard line.
If you're on the floor and you're not first row, what's the point?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I've never sat in the floor seats for a wrestling show for that reason because I know people
I
have sat
have.
there.
I have. I sat in like row 7 one time on the floor for Monday Night Raw, and we're talking like behind the announce table, right, where you're like away from the you're not where the entranceway is. You're like on the other side of that, right? So when they come out, specifically now when WWE doesn't have a stage, especially for like Raw and SmackDown, when obviously their stage level is at ground level, if you're behind the announcers and you're 7 rows back and the ring isn't raised, as soon as people start standing up, you can't see nothing. You've got to stand up. Even if people are sitting down, you still got to try to stand up. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not a good vantage point.
You
I've
know
had row
what?
two.
You know what? I just realized I misspoke because you know what? Years ago, I did sit on a floor at the floors on the floor for a Raw in Buffalo, but I didn't pay a lot of money for them. That's what it was. We got the tickets super cheap. Actually, my wife and I, before we were married, we went. I just thought about that for a second. I'm like, wait a second. I did sit there, and I do remember this is years ago.
Mhm.
I remember saying to myself, I'm definitely not going to spend big bucks on floor seats. Like we got the tickets for a good price because it was a family friend and all that. So like we didn't pay up the wazoo for it. But I remember if the prices are close in number or even a little bit higher, I'd rather sit first level, kind of what we just did for SmackDown in Albany, where you can see the ring, you can get a good vantage point. I'm all about going to a show and not saying, "Oh, hey, I was sat at the floor, but I didn't see anything." I'd rather sit in the first or even second level and be like, "I saw the entire ring, I saw the entire show, all good."
Yeah. I had row two for a SmackDown about a year ago in Wilkes-Barre, and I went with people who hear the word row two, they think it's going to be great. Row two, how could it be bad, right? Again, row two, it's different if it's like behind green shirt guy because you're like dead center. But if you're like row two, but you're like row two in those sections that are like off in the corner of the ring,
Yeah.
behind the announce table, right? It's not the greatest, and especially because the rows go down past the ring, so you're not just right behind the ring, but you go like off into a corner. So you're row two, but on the aisle, right? So you're closer to the 100 levels where those people are elevated. So you would rather have that. I think when we just went to Albany, we were on the second level, but I think, as I told you there, I think we were physically closer to the ring than if we were like on the floor, but on the one end zone side, those kind of things. Obviously, they could run to the ring quicker than we could run to the ring because we can't just jump off a balcony. But I'm just saying, like, you pull out a tape measure and the ring to where we were, we might be physically closer to the ring than where they were. And we have that better vantage point looking down on the ring versus up at the ring.
I'm all about vantage points. I don't need to be closer, so to speak, like on the floor. Like that to me, that has no cachet for me personally. If someone offered me row one, sure. But if it's not row one, I don't see the point. I'd rather sit in an elevated spot and get a good vantage point because if I'm there for the experience of watching a great show, but be able to watch the show. I don't need to be where I'm having to duck my head and move my head and do all that. I've been to different shows, whether it's wrestling, other sports, music, and there's nothing worse than having somebody sitting in front of you where I don't want to say this in a bad way, but they got a big noggin. And I'm like having to do this to try to watch the band play kind of a thing. Like that's the most annoying thing in the world because you spend your hard-earned money. I want to be able to see the show the way I want to see it.
So, but either way, for SummerSlam, $43, they had some floor seats. They weren't even the worst of the worst in what we're talking about. But either way, $43, they were selling floor seats, $70 lower level. They've sold out those. I'm glad I got it because those seats are gone. And the best part about this, and we talk about getting the most for your money, is a lot of times, WrestleMania last year, specifically for myself, when tickets started to go down, I really was kicking myself. I was really feeling down on myself. I was really feeling like, how come I did this, and felt like, I'm still looking at ticket prices just to feel bad, just to be depressed. But now what's nice about what I paid for these tickets is no matter what happens with the tickets, if they go half price, if they get down to $30, if they get down to $40, for these lower level seats that are dead center with the ring, if they get down to $10, I'm not going to feel ripped off. I'm not going to say, oh, I should have waited because I got what I felt was a price that when I clicked purchase, I'm happy with the price I paid. I'm happy with what I got. I'm not sitting over here going, I hope I didn't get ripped off. Because I don't feel like I got ripped off. And like I said, even if the price is cut in half, I don't feel like I got ripped off. And these sections sold out that I bought the tickets in, which was struggling to sell out. Now it's sold. There's still a lot of seats to be sold at $40 and $25 as that promo caught. But, it's made it so they put in more sections on sale, meaning they're making it even larger now because their impression is they're going to sell these based on the market. It's weird. I don't know how they do the algorithms, but they put more seats on sale before they sell the other seats sometimes just based on the movement of the seats when they start to see section 1 and 2 starting to sell before they're even sold, before they're even half sold, they know they can open up section 3 and section 4 kind of thing. So I guess my question is the current setup is for 30,000 for SummerSlam each night. They're about that for each night. What do you think at the end of the day WWE is going to get for SummerSlam, let's say per night? Obviously, the building can hold like 70,000 people. What do you
I'll,
think?
I'll say 35 a night. So I'll say 70 total. I think it's a safe number at this point.
It's crazy to think because it's such a low, obviously, with a one night SummerSlam in a full stadium, it would be the same crowd. And you wonder, well, Minnesota obviously cannot be that happy that, they've essentially didn't get a WrestleMania. And that is my big guess is that this became a 2 night event because this was the first one that was announced as a 2 night event. And it kind of came off of, from what a lot of people are saying, is made an announcement so early on because they didn't get WrestleMania, because they were telling them in 2024, you're not going to be getting WrestleMania like we, I guess, might have agreed upon for 2025 or 2026. So we're going to lock you in for SummerSlam now. And because you want this multi-night event, we're going to make it so that when we do bring SummerSlam here, it is going to be a multi-night event. So at that time, I went to SummerSlam in Cleveland, which was announced after this Minnesota one and was not a 2 night event. So this was the first ever 2 night SummerSlam that was announced. And we didn't know necessarily if it would be the first one. They then made it so that last year's was the first one. But it was announced and as the two, when 2 nights wasn't an idea yet. So we'll see just how annoyed they are with WWE in this little strategy. But 30,000 a night or 35,000 a night, just for being in a massive stadium like this, to be at like what is essentially a full, they just drew 70,000 last year for the Royal Rumble. Just seems a little disheartening, but we will see. Either way, it's going to be a good card, and we will talk about that part of SummerSlam next week on our show. Before